Mr. Chairman, I want to thank our witnesses for being here today, and I'm going to do something I don't think I've ever done before in an opening statement. I'm going to read from a couple of the individuals. Mr. Travis, Mr. Greenwald I read their full statements last night, very compelling testimony. I'm going to read from part of those because I think they capture what the situation truly is. Let me start with Mr. Travis's written testimony. He says this: algorithms are designed by humans and the results are monitored. Facebook can make any site soar in popularity or crush their traffic, and they can do it in an instant. This is the power of big tech writ large. We are living in a new gilded age where tech billionaires, maybe soon to be trillionaires, have more power than any elected official in the land. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, Twitter's Jack Dorsey, Apple's Tim Cook, Alphabet's Sundar Pichai, and Amazon's Jeff Bezos have more power today than Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, and Henry Ford ever did in the earliest days of the 20th century. These modern-day tech monopolists can pick presidential election winners, control our national debates, decide whose voice is heard, whose voice is not heard. The Supreme Court no longer decides what the law of the First Amendment is in this great country. These tech executives do. In practice, big tech controls the country, and they control the country by deciding what we see. Well said, Mr. Travis. I mean, if this doesn't underscore why we need to remove the liability protection in Section 230, I don't know what does. Mr. Greenwald makes many of the same points in his written testimony, and then he says this about the specific question at hand at this committee hearing today. He says, how Congress sets out to address Silicon Valley's immense and undemocratic power is a complicated question. Well, it is, posing complex challenges. The proposal to vest media companies with an antitrust exemption in order to allow them to negotiate as a consortium or cartel seeks to rectify a real and serious problem. Very true. But, and this is important, but empowering large media companies could easily end up creating more problems than it solves. He goes on to say this: further empowering this already powerful media industry, which has demonstrated it will use its force to silence competitors under the guise of, quote, quality control, runs the real risk of transferring the abusive monopoly power from Silicon Valley to corporate media companies. And this last clause is important. Or even worse, encouraging some sort of de facto merger in which these two industries pool their power to the mutual benefit of each. We already saw that happen. We saw it in last fall's election. Both Mr. Travis and Mr. Greenwald cite this in their written testimony. Last fall, when big media teamed up with big tech to make sure the American people didn't hear about the Hunter Biden story in the weeks leading up to a presidential election. So we've already seen them team up against we the people. And now we have legislation that's going to give big media this consortium and cartel power. At the same time, we're looking to use antitrust law to deal with big tech. We're going to give an antitrust exemption to big media. Maybe that's the right course, but I got real questions about that, whether we should move in that direction. So I look forward to hearing from our witnesses. I want to thank them again for coming, particularly Mr. Travis, who traveled here in person. I appreciate his good work, and we look forward to a chance to hear from each of our witnesses, Mr. Chairman. And with that, I yield back.